You know, it's like, oh my God, that's coming up from the fjord. It's like, yeah, this fjord is trashy as hell.
The mission we have is a bit bigger than just removing some waste from the Oslo Fjord. It's actually building awareness.
We have to talk about climate change. We can't just brush it under the carpet and continue with our day. Like, we have to talk about it, we have to address it.
Ever since, the fjords have sustained animals, plants, and people, providing food, shelter, and mobility. Fishing and sea life shaped Norway's history for many centuries. In particular, the Oslo Fjord is one of Norway's most important fjords, stretching over 100 kilometers in length and winding past more than 300 lakes and dense forests, presenting a landscape of beauty, recreation, and life. In modern times, the Oslo Fjord forms the gateway to political power, to economic growth, to trade and tourism. It connects Norway to the European continent, while remaining deeply woven into the presence of daily life, as transport, as source of food, as mediative joy. But the Oslo Fjord faces a serious challenge: toxic pollution.
Most people are just like, they're shocked by what they're seeing, basically, because it's hard to see under the surface of the water. So they don't, like, if you look out here, there's trash everywhere under the water, but no one sees it, so it's just like, oh, beautiful water. You know, it's like, oh my God, that's coming up from the fjord. It's like, yeah, this fjord is trashy as hell.
There's a very diverse set of pollutants that come into the fjord. Population around the fjord is increasing. Sewage systems have been built for much smaller populations, and also climate is changing, so there's extreme rain events. This causes that you have overflow of the sewage systems. The pollutants that are supposed to go to the sewage, to the wastewater treatment plants, are ending up in the fjords. And then of course you have also industrial developments which cause an increase of nutrients, particular nitrogen, but then also these forever chemicals that are released also by traffic. If you think, okay, I can recover that battery or this e-scooter again, it's just to dry it, there might be some direct hazards involved. They can catch fire, they can give you an electric shock, so it's probably not something you want to experience. The first thing you have to realize, right, they are not waterproof. They're not fully waterproof. And waterproof doesn't mean that they don't let any water in, especially if these batteries and the housings lay in the fjord for a longer time. They corrode and then they leak. And what they leak is heavy metals like cobalt, nickel, and those already at very small concentrations affect marine life. These heavy metals, they don't disappear, they spread. They might even spread outside the fjord, spread to areas where there's still ongoing fisheries, and then they add up on our meals. There's an interaction between the loss of biodiversity and climate change. If climate changes, also certain species disappear because they are under pressure. But then also, when you have a high biodiversity, this biodiversity can buffer these changes. So meaning, if you have a lot of different species in the fjord, if you have a change, one species may go down, another species can fill that gap that this species leaves behind. So that's why it's important to protect biodiversity, in particular in times where climate is changing. You have to have some diversity within the species, because then you can have somebody that can cope, better with heat. Somebody can cope better with higher pH or higher CO2 levels. And of course the fjord has a global role in this, right? Protecting the fjord, the species we protect here in the fjord, they might be useful in other fjords or in other systems around the globe. It's part of keeping this diversity alive for future generations and for future changes. There's economical reasons, and then there is reasons for mental health, right? And joy that we can experience with the fjord. And of course, it's also a nice view, right? It's also a spiritual, I think, spiritual experience if you see the fjord, look at it, and take a swim, take a dive, or catch a big fish in the fjord. Right? So I think there's many reasons why we should keep it clean and why we should restore it.
We're finding these big batteries, which are used for they're from the boats, and people just aren't disposing. They don't want to dispose of them properly, so they just dump them in the water. I mean, our core thing is just cleaning every Sunday, because it's like just consistency, get out there, get your hands dirty. You've got to talk, you've got to communicate and all this type of stuff, but it's not about, there's just too much, there's too many politicians flying across the globe, drinking champagne at their climate conferences, and too many bureaucrats making their reports about how it would be nice to do this and that, and nothing actually eventuating. So less talk and more doing, that would solve half of this. Years back when there was, more construction around the Monk Museum and Opera House and so on, we would find so much construction equipment left over, like full tubes of silicone glue, and it was just nuts. Because you see sometimes all these green labels and forms and stuff that the industry likes to put out and say oh, we're following these guidelines and stuff. What you realize is the reality does not always match their forms. So it was quite an eye-opener. We get a lot of people like super stoked when they see what we're doing. They're like, oh, tusen takk, or thanks, or bra jobb, like, oh, we really like the job you're doing. So, I mean, it's generally just all supportive. People like see us in the central Oslo, and they even come and help us pull up kayaks and scooters on the road. So it's a service not to only nature, but to the people of Oslo.
I'm very impressed to see that people are volunteering to clean up the mess that inconsiderate people make of our streams and waterways. And I think it's very admirable to see such volunteerism, and I'm very much impressed.
Makes me feel really, really good, but I'm also a bit shocked that they find this kind of stuff under the water. So, but I really love what I see, that they clean up the fjords, and we really need to do that.
I think they do really a very great job, and it's all voluntary work, and it means so much. People really start stopping throwing things in the ocean. You do a great job.
Great job.
I get really disappointed when I see this, and I guess it's from my childhood because I played here when I was a little girl, and I guess it was my friends doing this, maybe, or our parents. I think it's most important to give people information about how much damage these things do and how much it is, and we have to change our minds.
University, they reached out to us like 3 years ago. We got to use our strengths, which is diving, and then they have like all of the theoretical knowledge in the lab and stuff where they can go back and test. And we're doing a mussel project with them now.
University of Oslo, they asked us for collecting some samples of blue mussels. They are researching how polluted the fjord is by extracting blue mussels from different regions. And our role is just to provide them with those samples. So they don't have divers themselves. And since they know we are diving in those areas regularly, they just asked us for this favor. So we deliver a few samples of blue mussels for them from different sites.
Blue mussels fix bicarbonate and bind it with calcium, making calcium carbonate. So these kind of shells, as you can see here. If you make a lot of these shells, they contain quite a lot of carbon. And when these mussels die, or when you harvest them, you can use these mussels in various ways. The soft parts you can use as fish fed for aquaculture, and the shells contain these carbons and have the potential to sequester carbon in the sediment. So when these sink down, they sequester carbon. pH in the ocean is changing, so these shells are degrading more rapidly because of the lower pH in the ocean. They might not get as thick as well as they would be under higher pH concentrations. There's still a lot of research going into the behavior of these shells under these pH conditions that are changing in the ocean. Of course, it's not really a solution for climate change, but it can at least partly contribute both that the ocean maybe has not these low pH conditions locally, but also that there are some minor carbon capture effects of these mussels. And then of course they also have other positive effects on the ecosystem. They clean the fjord from large particles.
We made the structures for them, like special ropes and stuff, but there was so many mussels that they went down to the bottom and they overgrew. So we tried to gather the mussels from the bottom and then try to put them elsewhere. So we put on the boat and we just put them in the other area, Oslo Fjord, also around our old base.
Coming together and doing those kind of initiatives creates conversations. And I think that's very important because we have to talk about climate change. We can't just brush it under the carpet and continue with our day. Like, we have to talk about it, we have to address it. But it can be quite difficult to address for many people because it's big and it's difficult and it's quite serious, right? I think that making it more comprehensible, making it more kind of easy to digest, learning is also something that happens when we are amongst other people. And I think that we are naturally open to perspectives from people that we have some kind of connectedness with. And volunteer work creates that connectedness, right? Because we have a meaning, we're coming together, we're doing this task together, and that will automatically make us more open to the people that we are in this group with. Like we're creating this kind of social identity in a way, that the group identity, like we are a group that's meeting up every Sunday or Saturday and we're picking up trash from the beach or the ocean. And that can create this kind of very strong identity and feeling of belonging. And then we are open to other perspectives from other people in that group because we see them as similar to ourselves. We're meant to live in packs as people, as human beings, right? So doing anything alone is not really sustainable.
We see things are moving, despite sometimes there's a little bit of back and forth. I can tell that people are more and more engaged with time, that we are able to reach further locations, that we have better gear, better equipment, better systems, and that we do make a difference. Because we hear from people saying how certain of the locations we clean, they have become, better with time. The fjord might not be yet to reaching its full potential, but there's some little things, like suddenly there's a few also artificial reef growing. We're also working on those projects. We see less things washing from the river because we also clean there often. Part of our mission would be not only to clean up the fjord, but also to restore it, because we can only go so far as cleaning the mess that washes every week, every month. Having the intention to actually take care of the fjord and create habitats and environment for the fjord to prosper, that would be the ideal, because if everyone has that mindset, then we completely change the game, right? We end up having less of a dead fjord in that sense, less trash washing.
I love this community, so I'm so glad Thomas told me this, and I'm here every Sunday. And after this cleanup sessions, thanks to our sponsors, we have free burgers, saunas, and that helps a lot to give us more motivation to clean up in bad weather. These guys are amazing. They work all year round, and it doesn't matter if it's -11 or +10, so after a year I can see the impact, because when we started in Bjørvika a year ago, and usually I did the kayaking support, because basically we have 3 different supports. One is land cleanup. Today I did this. Then we have the free divers, and if there is a possibility, then kayaking support. And because I paddled a lot and I saw the floating trash on the fjord in Akershalvor, that's the worst. And after a year I see the difference, so we have an impact, a good impact. Thanks to the other project, we have this aquapod. It's an automatic filter next to the opera house, and we are working on to have more places in different areas around Oslo, so it helps a lot.
I think it's just a way to just start and do something, whatever it is. Just come and show up and do. That's what I did today. I was just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But I'm just going to show up, And like, I think that's when you see all these people walking past, it lowers the barrier for them to be able to do something to at least contribute a little bit to fighting these big world issues. Even if it's the tiniest bit, it's something.
On Sundays when we have the cleanups, and I get home and I feel like really energized from that, because I'm like, I've been with all these people that are like engaged and they want to do something, and it kind of is a very nice start for like the new week, that you're like, okay, there's actually still some people that care. And not everybody just like, never mind, I'm just in my little bubble and like nobody else cares. And so I think it's also, it is a small impact, but it, from like the emotional perspective, I think it matters that you feel that you're doing something, and you talk to people that are not yet engaged in the projects and they're like intrigued about it and like ask questions, and so you also feel like you are kind of contributing others to get into this topic. So yeah.
There is like the direct impact because we like clean up the trash from the bottom. We take away batteries, we take away like beer cans, needles, different things, electric scooters. So the direct impact is of course that we take out the trash. But I think also another impact is that people see us, that someone is doing that, and maybe more people will take care or pay more attention that it's not like you throw things to the sea and they disappear.
What you can do as an inhabitant of the fjord surrounding is that you drive your car less, especially if you have an electric car. That one produces much more small particles that release these forever chemicals and also heavy metals. So drive your bicycle, take public transport, which is extra true in winter. When you drive your spike tires, they release even more of these kind of particles. Of course it's cold, so it's maybe not the best time to ride your bike, but just consider that. Convince your politicians to invest into better sewage systems. This costs a lot of money. There are some estimates, it's several billion Norwegian crowns that these systems gonna cost.
That I have tried to talk about it.
Yeah. But now it's covered that you talk to me.
Yeah. But I'm just like, I know it's an uncomfortable thing to say, but I'm just like, this, you know, this just needs to be put out there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, thank you.
Put some pressure on some big industrial sources that they compensate for their nutrient outlets.
I mean, we are all voters at the end of the day, so we can like influence somehow in that regard, like the program of parties, what they should stand for. So I think that's also like how we make the case for saying like, okay, it is actually necessary to reduce sewage for our projects as well.
More marine life would be great, because that means nature can heal itself, and we just make one step to get there.
What we have now, we have like the very nice group of people, and we have very nice like the divers and cleaners, and we have many people willing to do stuff, but we are lacking the base, and the base in the center Oslo, which we used to have, was much better. So I think it would be nice to have a base which is central. Now we are based at Lysaker, but being centrally around like Sjuholmen or Serenga was much nicer. The amount of trash, the electric scooters and the stuff which is there is like 10 times more than here. I think it would be nice to have a bigger support from Oslo Kommune and have some base. I think now is like the number one.
The seaweed growing on the ship?
Give people the opportunity to build community around it, to educate people, to promote this idea of cleaning the Oslo Fjord and restoring the natural habitats. So I feel like the mission we have is a bit bigger than just removing some waste from the Oslo Fjord. It's actually building awareness.
We feel like we're pushing rocks uphill, and we're just like, it's just this unsolvable, unbeatable sort of battle that we're fighting, because there's so many issues facing Oslo Fjord that we can't, as one small organization, face. We've been trying to do this stuff for quite a long time, and it's just been like running into bureaucratic walls and just not being able to get anything done. Even the will of the politicians is there, but they can't push it through either. I think we're going in the right direction, and I do see there's been a bit of traction in the last years with like what Marine Reperturner and Maria and Neva are doing, trying to get these areas of restoration for like seaweed, mussels, sea squirts and so on. There's all these little projects, and they're all very good, and I hope they're the catalyst that leads to bigger things. But unless we do all of these projects at scale, like big swathes of seaweed, big swathes of mussels, then the effect is going to be pretty negligible when it comes to carbon capture. The current rules that we have are the reason why the fjord is dead. So we need to revise and re-edit and think about creating new rules, because status quo is what got us here, so status quo is not going to be what gets us out of here. So think outside the box.
The Oslo Fjord is seriously under pressure, but there is hope. Communities are acting. Projects and initiatives are underway. Step by step, the waters are being restored. Protecting the fjord also supports finding solutions for climate change, while the greatest reward lies right ahead. Cleaner shores, healthier waters, a living fjord for animals, plants, and future generations. Real change must come from governments and corporations. This begins locally, in our own hands, in our own neighborhoods. We can help the Oslo Fjord getting back to its original strength, right now. Making a difference together.